Hello, and welcome to the Employee Safety Podcast from Alert Media, where you'll hear advice from experienced safety leaders on how to protect your people and business. I'm Peter Steinfeld. Today's guest is Joel Navarro, Vice President of Global Business Resiliency at East West Bank and President of the North Texas chapter of the Association of Continuity Professionals, or ACP. Joel has over 20 years' experience developing and leading global business continuity, disaster recovery, and crisis management programs at organizations like Mary Kay Global, BBVA, and Guarantee Financial Services. Joel shares practical insights on creating effective continuity plans, fostering collaboration with business units, and leaning into servant leadership to engage teams and build trust. This is a great episode for anyone looking to strengthen their organization's resiliency. Let's get started. Hey, Joel, thanks so much for being here.
Glad to be here. Always glad to be invited to talk about business continuity.
Well, we're looking forward to it. You've really built an impressive career as the go-to person for creating and improving business continuity programs. So how have you become so successful in this field?
I think it's just experience. I think that's probably the best thing that I can say is it's just, I've been doing this a little while. Certainly starting out in the IT field, moving through into business continuity. I had a very strong mentor of mine that recognized some talent in me for business continuity and said, hey, I think you should join our team. You can articulate IT intricacies very well. Like you can speak to the business very well. I think you would be good helping us determine and helping us stand up this business continuity program. That's really how I got started. I was invited into the field, if you can say. So that's really where it all started for me. I didn't have any dreams about it. I probably didn't even know what it was. I'm certainly old enough to have been in the profession to recognize when 9/11 came around, right? I think that solidified some things about business continuity. ITDR always existed. We've had that for a while. So when that sort of event happened to not just the United States, but to the world, there was a push to sort of get resiliency from a business perspective started. And he reached out to me. And that's kind of how I got started.
It's interesting what you just said, that you were able to really clearly translate IT to business. You bridge that gap between two groups that often speak different languages. Do you think that's really a part of your success in this field?
Absolutely. I think it's a really big part of the success. I think that is probably one of the strengths that I have is I have the ability to sort of tell a story. Certainly more so today than even back when I started. Information technology is always something we relied on. We rely on it so much more heavily today. So being able to take the complexity of how those things are built and how they work and what would happen and how they might be interrupted, being able to articulate that to someone who is the head of accounting or in HR who doesn't really understand all those intricacies, I think that's a really big strength. I know it's had a lot to do with my success is being able to articulate that and position it in a way where it's like, this is what's really happening. I know server X and Y and Z are going down, but really this is what it means for you and your business and for what you're actually working on. So yeah, I think it's meant a lot for me.
So how do you typically begin assessing a program's current state when you join a new organization or just work with a new team?
I try to go in and listen first. I know people probably say that a lot, right? You should listen before you speak, but I really do think that is a winning philosophy for personal and professional relationships. So going into a business unit and not going in with the stick, right? You're going in with the carrot that says, hey, listen, I want to learn about your business. I want to know how you perform. I want to know how you do things. And then I start introducing scenarios. And it's just a conversation. That's the way I really roll out and deal with all of my business continuity planning is let's have a conversation. I'm not going to hit you with, I need you to fill out these 16 fields, or I need a BCP from you or a business continuity plan. I need you to develop one of those. And here's what you have to do. It's really the conversation. How do you work? And let me retranslate that into how we can best fit that into the potential regulatory requirements that we have for how we have to do things. So that's kind of how I do it first. It's really learning from them first, learning how they work, learning how they want to articulate back to me what they're going to do in a disaster situation. And then I figure out, I feel like that's my job is to figure out then how to push it back into the planning or the system that we're using. So that's been really important.
So it sounds like you try to prime their brains to want to be receptive, to be involved in this and participate before you go to the next step.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I always love hearing it. It's not the best thing for some people. For me, it's the thing that I look forward to the most when I am talking to a business unit and the first thing they tell me is, listen, I'm not sure why we're having to do this with you because we know what we're going to do already. That is like the best thing I could hear because that's my opportunity. That's my open door to step in and say, oh my God, great. Tell me about it. Let me hear it. What are you guys planning on doing? How are you going to react? Oh my, that sounds really great. What if you didn't have the phone system? Would you still be able to do that? So you have that conversation and plan those scenarios. So whenever I'm talking with a business unit and I hear that sort of, we know what we're doing, please leave us alone, that's how I engage with them. I sort of take their negativity and I turn it around and say, oh, you know what? We're going to work with that. That's great. I'm glad you know what you're doing. I'm here to learn from you.
What that really sounds like is a very empathetic approach to assessments. Would you say that that specific approach has helped inform your leadership style, just generally speaking?
It absolutely has. I mean, I do sort of follow a very basic servant leadership type of role. I feel like that's the easiest way in. That's the way that I have found the most success. Again, the carrot over the stick. I've been in lots of organizations where we have a strict regulatory compliance for the things that we have to do. I've seen some of my colleagues, good and bad, who've come in and said, you have to do this. So I'm going to tell you how you're going to do it. And then I just need you to do it I just need you to do that for me. So coming in and saying, listen, this is complex, right? It's not meant to be complicated. So I want to uncomplicate things for you. But there is some complexity to this. So let's talk about it. Sort of the help me, help you situation where it's like, I want to help you fit into what you need to be able to do and how we can backfill that into a regulatory perspective. But it really comes from that point of servant leadership. I've got a job to do, but I know you have a job to do. This is my full-time job. So it's really important to me to do business continuity planning for the organization. But I realize it's maybe a tenth of part of your responsibility. So simplifying things and having gradual growth is probably the best strength.
That's really interesting. When it comes to gradual growth, do you find that that's really different for every individual you work with? Like some people are just growing a lot quicker than others, and others you have to take a longer term approach to. Like, what's that like working with different folks?
Yeah, everybody works differently. I tend to be a very big picture person. So I can come in and tell you a story and tell you what I think it should look like. And some people will run with that and be like, I know exactly what you're talking about. Diametrically opposed to me, the people I've worked with are people who are very step-by-step oriented. So they're like, well, what do you need me to do first? And then what's second? And what's third? And you need to give me the detail of everything I need to do. The way I sort of work through that, again, conversation is always how it starts out. But then I have in my career have morphed into different methods or modalities of presenting the materials. There was the development guide. Here's how you do everything. And then it was sort of a PowerPoint slide. So it's a little lighter than that, but it's still reading and kind of going through things, having a conversation. And then recently, in the last 3 to 5 years, I learned how to do some media things on my own. So from the very beginning of that 45-minute conversation with a development deck, I've turned it into like an 8-minute training video with everything that I'm trying to say in 8 minutes. And they can watch it as many times as they want to. They can fall asleep to it and wake up the next morning and do BCP planning if they want to. So it's really been helpful. So I think recognizing that innovation has to happen with every aspect of the business and training and that awareness and getting all those compliance requirements taken care of, you've got to meet people where they are. If you're best with big picture and that's great, move forward. We will probably gel together very well. If you are very much that step-by-step person, then I have a 86-page document you can look at with screenshots and steps and go to town. Or this 8-minute video that says, here's everything. I'm going to say it to you exactly what I want you to learn. And you can go over it. You can watch it as many times as you want to. I think that's really been helpful, is sort of recognizing innovation has to happen in every aspect of the business.
What's fantastic about where we are with technology today is that it's never been easier to take advantage of all those different mediums. It used to be you could kind of put something out on paper and hand it to people, and it had to be one size fits all. Now you can record videos with your iPhone, and there's so many things you can do so easily.
That's exactly right. I think so. I think that technology was supposed to come along and make things easier for us. In many ways, it has. In many ways, it's become a little bit more complicated. So I'm not sure that the jury is in yet on whether or not technology is really helping us be more efficient. It depends on what area of the business you're in.
Exactly. Well, speaking of complexity, I'm sure you've encountered business continuity programs that were just overly complex, or in the opposite, they're just underdeveloped. So, what strategies do you use to gain buy in from leadership and stakeholders on overhauling those programs?
I think the biggest thing that I worry about, or I think the biggest thing of the concern of leadership when we talk about them is they just want to make sure that things are remaining compliant, making sure that they're meeting whatever it is that regulatory or internal audit, whoever is asking, that we're meeting those. So I don't really have a lot of resistance when it comes to leadership buy-in in making those kinds of changes. Their question mainly is, I don't understand everything you're changing, but are we still good? Is this still going to meet requirements for us? As far as on an operational level with like my individual business units, I always go back to the simpler I can make it for them, the better off it's going to be. There are some things that I can manipulate from a data perspective in the background, but I need to really make it easy for them and comprehensible for them so that they understand what it is we're asking them to do. So it's really telling that story. I think a business continuity plan ought to be able to tell a story. And I think as a non-professional, you should be able to look at a continuity plan and go, oh, I know what accounting is going to do if they have an interruption. Instead of, I've certainly taken a look and mentored some folks and have taken a look at plans that were developed by other companies. And it's like, as a business continuity professional, if I can't tell you what the recovery strategy is after looking at the business continuity plan, I think you're in real trouble. I don't think there's an oversimplification that can go too far. I think the simpler you can make it, the better. The better it tells a story and moves things forward, I think is the best way to go.
That's a really great point. Now, not everyone wants to participate. So, what do you do if you encounter resistance?
My charming personality is the first thing I go with, Peter. But when that doesn't work, I think it just goes back to those fundamentals. I try to make it as simple as possible. The last resort that I always end up having to go to if someone is just really resistant to doing anything is that for organizations where I've been where we have a regulatory requirement, that's what it comes down to. Let me help you make this as simple as possible. I will work with you. I will stay late and come in early around your normal work hours so that we can work together to get this done because unfortunately, you can't skip it. You will have to complete this. And it has to be in a comprehensive, actionable planning perspective. It can't just be lip service. You can't just write some things down. So I try to find any in that I can. And as continuity planners, we're already on call most of the time. So, if I've got to stay a little late or work through a lunch, I think I have at least once in my career bought lunch for someone and said, hey, let's go downstairs and just eat lunch together and have that conversation. I'll take all the notes. I'll help you with your continuity plan and we'll get it done.
Can you think of any stories of a tough nut you were able to crack that came around and said, you know what, I'm glad you stayed on me?
So I did a tabletop exercise with someone who was very resistant to being there. And again, it was someone who very knowledgeable in the area of work that she had accomplished. But when you do a tabletop exercise, we need the leader of the group generally and whoever they've designated their backup. And then we need as many people in the department to participate so that everyone becomes familiar with the process. Everyone has a chance to work through it. So I had called a tabletop exercise and it was like an hour and a half or 2 hours long. It's a big chunk of their day. She did not want to be there. So we started walking through the exercise and pretty much, I will tell you, literally the words came out of her mouth. We already know what we're doing. I'm not sure why we have to be here. And so the response again for me was, great, let's walk through it. Let's talk about it. What I can say about that is that we did get to a point where something came up and it had to do with some sort of documents or collateral that they had. And it was like, and I said, oh, well, if we have to evacuate the building, you just kind of leave those laying around. And they said, oh, no, those have to get locked up. In fact, we only unlock those and take them out when we're working with them because then they have to go right back. And so the response was sort of, we do have a gap that we have to fill. So keeping them engaged and moving along through the process and moving through and saying, yeah, I agree with you. You probably do know everything you're doing. I'm just here to help you fill in any gaps. And if we get through this entire thing and you have documented and you have set up recovery strategies for everything, every process in your department, then great. I don't mind that we didn't have any action items out of this. It's okay. I think, again, it's just meeting them where they are, accepting that resistance and saying, okay, I get it. You don't want to be here. Let's move forward through this together and let's see if we can't come up with any value. And it did. That exercise had a lot of value. We came with some really great things that they went in and improved those processes. And the following year, things went even better, right? It was really great. We did really kind of sail through it because they had thought through a lot of the things and not much had changed in their processes.
I think that's really, really poignant that when you approach people and you say, we're going to talk about business continuity and resilience, you're immediately questioning their competence and professionalism, right? And if you do that,
Yes. Yeah.
resistance. So you have to say, hey, guys, you probably already know way more about me about what has to be done to keep things going. I'm just here because I'm the guy that finds the cracks. I don't know a lot, so I ask questions and make you just think. Did I think of everything? That's the only reason I'm here. Let's just make it even better. And if you approach it from that, like we just get at the fine sandpaper, we're not coming in to knock everything down and build it back up. You're actually going to get people to want to participate in the process.
I agree, Peter. I think that's a great point. I'll just say it goes back to the idea that I have about that servant leadership. It's like I'm sort of leading from the rear, right? Like I'm here to learn from you. I know I'm the business continuity's subject matter expert, but I'm really here to learn about your business. And you are best positioned as the managing director of that area to tell me what you're planning on doing. And then I just help us fit it into the round holes sort of thing.
Well, on the other side of resistance, is there a particular moment or a project that stands out as a highlight in your business continuity career?
I remember having a large institution that I was working with had what I would consider to be a pretty large interruption. It affected quite a bit of the business. And as we moved through the situation, when we declared the event, the people that we were able to help right away were the people who had their business continuity plans. We were able to say to them, oh, you already told us out of your 30 people, you need 10 seats. Go talk to the facilities people. They're the ones putting everybody in their seats. And so they were able to do that. And we had to separate the people who we were prepared to talk to versus the people who hadn't planned at all. All of those people standing in that longer and longer line of the I didn't tell you anything ahead of time, we're like, how are they getting their seats right away? We're like, oh, well, they had their business continuity plan. They documented this. They told us how many seats, and they were like, oh, okay. And certainly not so much during the event, but after that, we had business units phoning us, sending us emails and saying, hey, can we get one of those BCP things that Joe had over in accounting or over in HR? And we were like, absolutely. Here's the process. And we got a lot better engagement from real life examples. So I will say that too. Real life examples, if you have a real life interruption, use that for pushing your program forward. Use it for budget if you have to. Like use it in every way that you can.
And use the fear of the human psychology of having to stand in a line.
Yeah, it's funny. I say that even when we're doing annual review cycles, I'm like, competition amongst managing directors and senior vice presidents, it can be really competitive. So I always kind of be like, well, let's announce who got theirs done or how many more we're waiting on, before the deadline hits. And you'd be surprised how much competition comes into it. And again, that's why I go back to how you and I started this conversation was it really is about personalities, right? It's about how you engage with them. That's really how you're going to move things forward. The specifics about how you're going to comply and how the structure of your plan and your programs is going to be, that you can pick up from a book, you can learn from colleagues, but it's the other part that you really have to try to develop based off of your own strengths.
I always recommend that people in safety, security, and continuity and resilience read up on human psychology and just use those tools and tricks because it can absolutely make a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny. I'll just bring this up again. I took some coursework. I think it was called Crucial Conversations. And one of the things I sort of learned out of that has just stuck with me was it was about arguments. So whether you're having a professional or a personal argument, at the end of the day, it was like you're arguing, but what are you trying to get to? What's the goal here? Is it to prove that you're right? Because if it is, well, by all means, continue arguing. If it's to prove you're right, go ahead. But if it is, well, we really just need to get this plan done, then for me, it's like, okay, well, that's the goal. So we're arguing about something that maybe I can let go for now. Maybe we can address it later so that we can move on forward because I have an end goal in mind and this is really not helping. So that's also too kind of how one might deal with some resistance. If it's not something that you need to deal with right away, you know what? Let it go. Maybe you're having a bad day. Maybe they're having a bad day, right? Everyone has weeks where deadlines have just come and it's a really difficult week and they don't want to talk business continuity. And sometimes it's like, you know what? We need to get this done by the end of the month, but I can reschedule with you for next week if that's a better time for you to talk. Sometimes it is.
I'm just taking notes here because I'm going to use that tonight with some of my kids at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I learned. It does work in a non-professional realm too. So yeah, feel free to use that.
Well, in addition to your current role, East West Bank, you're also the president of the North Texas chapter of the Association of Continuity Professionals, better known as ACP. Can you tell us about that organization and why you feel it's so important to you?
I'm really glad to be a part of that organization. Our North Texas chapter, just so I can do the shout out, we're the largest of the ACP chapters. We won Chapter of the Year last year. We're very proud of that for the engagement that we had. ACP at the core is a networking environment. It is really getting together, learning from each other, learning from the lessons learned, the mistakes. So I enjoy that probably the most. It's probably why I joined ACP in the first place, was to engage with other professionals. I'm not the first one that ran into a problem with resistance or ran into a problem with a chief legal officer who didn't like what we were doing. Like, I'm not the first one who's run into that situation. So sometimes just having those conversations and those sort of networking style events. And then ACP is really good. Our chapter is really good about bringing in speakers that talk to us about emerging threats and emerging technologies. Alert Media did a great presentation for us last month, learning a little bit about threat intelligence and what's coming in the horizon. So again, for us, it's really a way of providing that education and that training in addition to that networking. So I really love being a part of the organization. Now, it's a little tougher being president. That sort of the buck stops here. And, you got to make sure you've got some engaging presentations, and that if you're asking people to come during the lunch hour, maybe you're providing some lunch for them to eat so that they don't have to run back to the office unfed or about to pass out from exhaustion. So there's some logistical things, but I've really gotten a lot of reward from it. And certainly being on the board, I've not always been president, but just being on the board of ACP, you get to engage with a lot of the professionals that are providing services to BCP and resiliency professionals. So I've met those folks too. So again, you get to understand, oh, there's a product I can use that helps fill the gap that I'm trying to fill. So sometimes that helps. And sometimes you run into consultants who are like, you know what, I'm going to talk to my boss because I would really love for you to come and present your perspective on how emergency management should be handled. Come and talk to us about that and help me get the leverage I need to move forward to provide sort of a maturity of that program.
Well, I can tell you're really passionate about all this work. What fuels that passion, even after 20 years in the field?
Oh, I can't believe you threw out the 20 word, Peter.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right. It's probably showing up in my face a little bit anyway. I would have to go back a little bit, probably from a fundamental standpoint. I think we joked about it a little earlier, but my personality, I think when I look at my strengths, it certainly is positivity. It is engagement with people. So part of it just comes from part of the person of who I am. But also, I think when you look at operational resiliency specifically as a whole, there isn't anything that we don't get a chance to touch in any part of the organization. So resiliency has to happen from HR to supply chain to third party management. So there isn't anything that I don't get a chance to touch and to go help and to go build as part of a resiliency structure. Because we do have to talk with all those people. We do have to make sure everyone is resilient, from our most critical to our less critical. I don't say least, it's less critical. Everyone's essential to the organization, but absolutely. So I think that helps drive the passion, is that there's always something interesting and something on the forefront. I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't know a whole lot about it. AI is sort of making its way into our industry. So lots of organizations, lots of products that are being sold to us, services that are being sold to us as resiliency professionals are starting to engage AI and really using those to fuel us being better and us getting the results we need. Specifically with a lot of risk threat analysis and risk management, it's a really big deal. So any organization, any product or service that's moving into that AI technology, I think that's just great. So that keeps me engaged. It's new, it's exciting. So I take my positivity and I just redirect it to the next best thing.
It's like you're always looking to grow.
Always looking to grow. Exactly.
Excellent. Well, before we wrap up, what advice do you have for those new to business continuity or just looking to improve their organization's resilience?
If they're new to business continuity or resilience, I say, first of all, congratulations. You've chosen a really, really great field. I don't see our industry going away. We are resiliency, and that is always going to be a part of any organization. Things happen. So we need to be prepared for those. So I would say congratulations on that. Secondly, not to say too much about it, but ACP type organizations, DRI, DRJ, those types of organizations where you have an opportunity to network and learn from other people, don't discount those. What I always remind people who come to our meetings and our members is no one wants to be looking for work, but the people in this room, the people that are part of this ACP organization and similar organizations, we're the people doing the hiring. So if you come and introduce yourself to me and I have a position open up, you might be the first thought that has in my head, oh, I wonder how Peter is doing. I met him last time and he said he was looking for something. Let me give him a call. Or let me just remind him that I've got a position open if he's interested. So even just to that basic level of the next opportunity could always be around the corner. And the people that you meet are the ones that you're probably going to be doing the hiring. So networking is really important.
Yeah, the community aspect of this industry really is amazing. I don't think people outside it really understand that, but it's very much a community because when bad things happen, they typically impact all of us, if not equally, very closely. And we have to bind together to respond to those incidents.
That's absolutely right. I don't think anyone in any industry was unaffected by CrowdStrike. So we all felt the bite of that. And I think the stories we were able to tell after that were, again, where you find the value. It was like, oh, how did you handle it? How long did it take you guys to recover? What were you guys prepared for? Or were you not as prepared as you thought? And maybe I can share something that will help you in your organization. So yeah, I don't want to say it's a small community because I don't think that's true, but we are very close. It's a very close community.
Well, Joel, thank you so much for being on the show. Tremendous wisdom shared, and I really appreciate your passion.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
To learn more about Joel and his work with East West Bank and ACP, click the links in the episode description. You can also view the video of this episode on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. Stay safe out there.
Thank you for listening to the Employee Safety Podcast from Alert Media, the industry's most intuitive emergency communication and threat intelligence solution. To learn more about how to protect your people and business during critical events, visit alertmedia.com. Until next time.